What is going on, all-terrain nation? Whether it be two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, it does not matter what you drive unless it's a Bronco, because this is Bronco Talk Live here on YouTube. And Kelly, we have a pretty packed show tonight.
We do. We've got some heavy hitters in the house tonight.
We do. I see one in the green room right now. He was jamming to that song, man. It was pretty cool. He didn't realize I was probably watching him. But we have a good show.
A lot, Dave.
So we got 6'20" Mr. Mitchell from Town and Country Ford in Alabama will be on the show just shortly, and we were waiting on Tommy. Tommy was having some router issues or something. You guys seen their live streams when they go out in the garage? You'll probably understand they break up sometimes. So Tommy will be in the next couple of minutes, but first, let's bring the man in, Kelly. Let's bring all what is it, 513 or
myth, the legend.
What's up?
Howdy.
Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you go back and replay that intro? Because I was jamming out. I think everybody needs to see me dancing, okay? It's pretty terrible, but, I don't mind showing off.
Well, Mitchell,
that I have.
It's been a few
Sounds
since
like
we've talked to you, man. And
it's been too long.
I know, man. And we were just talking off screen here that I'm coming down, man. I want to see this. You guys built a crazy electric lifted Lightning, and I have to see this thing for in person.
For sure.
Yeah, it's wild, man. To my knowledge, it's the only leveled F-150 Lightning in the world right now. And
that's crazy.
And it's really just for the YouTube views, but it's interesting to me, like, what does it do to the range? What does it do to the 0 to 60? Like, it can affect a lot, especially on electric vehicles. So we're having a lot of fun kind of seeing what that can do and what it does to it.
Well, yeah, but come on, you're an Alabama man, so Alabama guy is going to get an EV and he's going to want to lift it. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Or
right?
squat it.
I'm waiting for the first.
No, we're not squatting it. We're not South Carolina, okay? Okay.
I'm waiting for the
seen
first.
quite a
I'm
few
kidding to
around
all the
here.
South Carolina people. We love you too. So,
No, but I'm waiting for the first big Alabama A in the back window of one of them things, man. Because there's nothing that says Alabama more than that, right?
Roll Tide.
Yeah, man. I know that's shocking, but so Mitchell, how have you been doing, man? We have, like I said, it's been a couple months since we've talked to you, man. Everything A-okay at your dealerships?
Yeah, everything is good. My son had a little bit of a health scare, but he's back to 100%. And the dealership has been, we're very blessed. We could always use more inventory because as we were talking a little bit off camera, it is still, the supply chain issues are just an absolute disaster.
Right.
That's the censored version. But it's at the end of the day, we're really blessed. We've got a really strong parts department, service department, and the vehicles that we do sell, you don't really have to discount them. We're selling almost everything, especially the orders. 100% of the orders are at MSRP, and I come from the days of 2005, 2006, we had to discount everything to the bottom to move it. So these dealers that tell you that they're barely scraping by, they're either really bad at what they do, or they or they're lying to you. One of the two.
Well, I know my dealership easily, I think invoice was like $2,000 more than MSRP on my Bronco. Plus they dinged us for every little thing they could find. But I know they turned out pretty good, seeing how the vehicle was there like 2 days and then it was gone. So
I actually I don't know if you've heard about it, Mitchell, but there's this thing kind of going around called Buck Bronco. Like, people are like doing like what they do with the Jeeps, where they duck Jeeps and stuff, and they do Buck Bronco is something that's lovingly been, now people either love it or they hate it. There's no like middle ground, it seems.
It's that way with the Jeep guys too.
But yeah, so it's funny because I actually got, this is going to sound inappropriate to you in the chat, but I actually got bucked on Saturday for the first time. I know, right? And I was sitting at Sonic actually, and this lady comes up and she's like, I saw you when I came in, and I was hoping that you would still be there by the time I got over here, and here, take this. And I sat and talked to her for about 15 minutes, and she was like, I've seen your Bronco before. Was it in the dealership showroom? And I said, yep, for about 18 hours, and it was not supposed to be. She's like, oh, I actually had to go up there and look at your Bronco and because I'd never seen one in person. And I was like, well, there is at least one person that
right
touched it that wasn't supposed to. But ours was a whole hot mess. But
if I could put that up there, Kelly, I would.
I'll do it.
All right, Valley Dude 5,000. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you so much for that super chat.
Mitchell, we've had a rough week, man. My son broke his arm, not just like broke his arm, like completely broke both bones in his arm. Like last week, I lost my mother. My daughter, she tried to break her arm last week, and then I found out what was it, Saturday? My nephew broke his collarbone, and I told the kids
all on the left-hand side.
Yeah, and I told the kids before we started the stream, I was like, look, wrap yourself in bubble wrap. Here's the Xbox controller. Do not move.
Like, I didn't even want to make our daughter do the dishes because I was like, what could happen while we're on this live stream tonight?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay, man. With my mother, it wasn't. It's always a tragic thing, but it had been coming for a long time. But no, even at that, I'm really, the last live stream I think we did, we got a call in the middle of it and was like, hey, you've got to go to Nashville now. And I was like,
and we're like 35 miles from the airport or from the hotel or hospital that he was at. So we were like, no. We don't. Sorry, guys. We really like legit have to go.
Right.
Yeah.
So Raptor, man. Today was the day all the embargoes dropped. Once again, everybody, Tommy will be in here in a little bit. He was Tommy's self said that he's not a technical guy, so sometimes things get him down a little bit. But it's the embargo day, so you're starting to see all the drives and everything. I don't think you've actually got to drive one yet, have you?
Yeah, don't get me started. I'm a little salty on some of that stuff.
Right?
Because we are, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there, and I'm going to try to be as least salty as I can. So even though we've got, 250, 260,000 subscribers on YouTube, because we are also a Ford dealer, Ford intentionally does not give us the access to film vehicles for these. Even if I'm willing to pay 100% of the cost to get up there, they say, "Up, you're a Ford dealer." Sorry, they don't care about what the reach is, and I also kind of get it, because they're like, "Well, if we do it for this dealer, you got to do it for the other dealer," and I'm like, "You're not doing it for the dealer, you're doing it for the eyeballs that we can reach."
Right.
And speaking of the honest side of the dealership, perspective, because I think that most people hate the traditional dealership experience, but I like to think of ourselves as not being traditional, and there's not very often that you'll find a dealership that's not afraid to call out a flaw or something that can be made better. So anyway.
Right. And speaking of eyeballs, we have Mr. Tommy popping in here. Tommy, what is going on, buddy?
Hey guys, I'm so sorry I'm late. I had a little bit of a disaster with the internet connection here, so
I remember
sincere apologies.
Like 10 months ago, the last time you were on the show, you were having all kinds of troubles, and
yeah, we've been trying to switch to fiber, and it's been a whole thing.
Oh, I
Anyways,
understand.
It's good to see you guys. Mitchell, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Good to see you. How are you doing?
Living the dream as best I can, I suppose.
I think Tommy's been burning at both ends, because these live streams, videos, you guys just got that Raptor in. Of course, you got to do the test drive, and you're probably Raptored out, right, Tommy?
Oh, I don't know if there's such a thing.
Well, you guys are killing it on the video game, that's for sure, man. Between the lightning stuff, I'm very impressed. I've been following you guys for a very, very long time, whether you know it or not, and you guys put out some fantastic content, so keep it up.
Well, thank you, sir. That's very kind of you. A big fan of your channel as well. You guys have been doing really well. But yeah, no, it's been great. We were fortunate enough to go on that the Raptor trip, and then I'm going up to Michigan on Wednesday to check out the Everglades. So that's what's going on this week.
So they're actually building that thing now, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw some of the previews, and we're going through 4 feet of mud, up through the hood, which will be pretty cool. So something I don't get a chance to do a lot of in Colorado, but yeah.
Well, you guys don't seem to have a lot of that kind of terrain, do you? No mud really there. It's mostly rocks and snow.
Rocks and trees, and snow. Yeah, not a whole lot of mud.
Well, and speaking of trees, man, I was watching the live stream you and Nathan were doing today, and you brought up a good comment, and we'll just jump right into Raptor about this, because that damn thing is wide, and the off-road terrain you deal with is pretty similar to what me and Mitchell deal with here on the East Coast. And
tight.
I don't know that's going to see many trails here in Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. I think there's a reason that Ford had the media launch out in Johnson Valley, right, where there's just desert and desert and desert and nothing to hit. But yeah, it certainly is a difficult thing, and people in at least our channel will always point out that they'll be the first ones to take full-size trucks down Jeep trails, and you're welcome to do it. It's just a matter of how much you like your paint. right? Do you want your clear coat on after the trail, or do you want to deal with pinstriping? You know what I mean?
Well, nothing
but
like
yeah,
an 80K truck to do that, to have that attitude with, right?
I know.
Because you're the
pretty
man with the
nuts.
cheapest Jeep in the world. So
I know, right? I got nothing on it, but and even I bought that Jeep for 30, I don't know, 31, 33 grand, and I'm still like terrified to like put pinstripes. I couldn't imagine spending 80 or 90 or whatever before.
well, we were like that. Oh, sorry. We were like that with our when we got our Bronco in November. We've been like that because we've been itching to get it off road, but it's a little terrifying knowing that if you did tear something up, getting parts to repair the thing might be a hard come by,
especially if it's a unique color that was a 1-year color.
Yeah. Mitchell would know better than anyone else. Have you guys had any issues getting Bronco parts in? What's supply chain like?
Yeah, so Bronco, really everything has been a disaster. Right before we went live with this, I was talking about a police cruiser, because we do a lot of local repairs for police, police stations and things like that. And we have one particular Explorer Interceptor. It's a 2013 model. He's been waiting on his engine for about 6 or 8 months. And we got word from Ford today that the good news is that we should be able to get their engine in the next 6 months. So you're talking about well over a year for a 2013 run-of-the-mill Explorer engine. It's
unreal.
It is unreal.
That's crazy, man. So the idea of tonight was I wanted to bring a salesperson in, a good salesperson in that we trust here on the channel. And Tommy, you obviously I've got to sit in the thing, I've got to start it up and play with it a little bit, but I haven't got to really test drive the thing yet. So I thought with you coming in, you have the experience now of driving it, and I was just going to let you two duke it out, basically, of how do I sell something I can't get, and how do I drive something I can't get, basically.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I think on the baseline of things, if you've driven a Sasquatch Bronco, it drives pretty much like any Sasquatch Bronco. So we actually drag raced. We haven't published the video yet, but we drag raced on our airstrip today the 2.7 Sasquatch versus the Bronco Raptor, and they're pretty neck and neck. So the Bronco Raptor is a little quicker off the line, so it got like a car and a half length lead over the Sasquatch, and then it basically held that over the quarter mile. So in the real world, they're about the same acceleration. The driving dynamics are pretty similar on the road. I think the Broncos probably just the Raptors just a little bit softer when you really start hitting some of the bigger undulations. But yeah, I mean the handling's pretty similar. The brakes feel pretty similar. The transmission tuning feels pretty similar. The Bronco Raptor is a little bit more wallowy in the bends. I mean, even if you stick it in sport mode, you're just dealing with like 10 inches of sidewall. So it certainly leans a little bit more. But honestly, the alarming part is when you drive the Raptor, you don't realize how wide it is until you try to go through like a drive-through. So on this trip, we got our filming done, and I was like, great, let's go get some in and out. And you can't see the flares when you're sitting behind the wheel. So when you're in the driver's seat, you see the hood, you see the hood line just like you do on your Bronco. And then you start making your turn, you start passing through those drive-through poles, and you're like, oh, what in the hell? I was like millimeters from clipping that pole. So you got to be super careful.
I heard you talking about that. You or Nathan were talking about that on the stream today. And the only thing I could think of is, well, if, do you keep an eye on where the mirrors, the end of the mirrors, or is that kind of the same distance as the fenders, and you just sort of kind of get used to knowing where they are?
Yeah, I mean, if you look out the mirrors in the back, obviously you see like these huge flares. But if you're just kind of doodling around driving forward, it's certainly, I mean, it's as wide as an F-150 Raptor, which is pretty nuts to think about. So it is just as wide on paper. So yeah, when you're really kind of maneuvering around, it can be tricky to remember that you have a full 10 inches over what it looks like out the hood on split over both sides of the vehicle. Yeah. So basically on road, I think they're very, very similar. The Raptor's a lot louder from the exhaust. And then really off-road's where you're going to start to see the difference. So on a rock crawl situation, they're both just like incredible, amazing, lockers and the stay bar disconnect. On the Raptor, you can actually have the stay bar disconnected up to, I think they said 45 miles an hour instead of 19 on any other Bronco. You can disable the ABS on the Bronco Raptor, which they're probably going to be grumpy. I keep telling people about because they were like, we want to keep this a little under wraps. But I'm like, well, you told me on the record, so
yeah,
do that. Yeah. And then on high speed, it's just like if you live in a place where you can let this thing rip. I mean, it's just amazing what it'll do. over extended periods of dirt.
Well, that's been my curious point with this vehicle, was because I love the regular F-150 Raptor, but there's a certain place for it, and it's out west. It's not here in the East Coast. I mean, I see them everywhere. Trust me. Every contractor here in Tennessee seems to have one overloaded. It seems like they put a bucket in the back of it and it's squatted suddenly. But
you look at it and you go, "You poor thing."
yeah, pretty much. But I get the truck, and I've struggled with the Raptor Bronco because we've wheeled from here to Moab. I mean, the only thing we haven't done is the Rubicon, really.
Yeah.
But it's similar to, from what I know of everything we've done, and I just don't see a purpose or a place for this other than Johnson Valley and go have some fun, maybe in the dunes.
What do you think, Mitchell? Is there a purpose for it?
I think, the way that I look at the F-150 Raptor is probably going to be similar to the Bronco Raptor. The F-150 Raptor, our number one customer for that vehicle, F-150, like you mentioned, is those high-end customers, the ones that own their own business, need to take their car, customers out on, to lunch in their vehicle, and they don't really work out of the truck. But I'll tell you, the suspension I haven't had a chance to drive the Bronco Raptor further than 20 yards, but
I know I saw it when you did it.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't supposed to talk about that, but I guess the cat's out of the bag. But that was a little, anyway. But the way that I look at the Raptor F-150 really benefits on road to the high end suspension. Yes, it is like Tommy mentioned. It's really good for high speed getting after it, but that usually means you've got a nice plush suspension on the interstate as well. And I can only imagine the Bronco Raptor is probably similar to that, to the F-150 side of things.
Right. And I have heard some Ford people in the know who I talked to, they've said, hey, around corners and stuff, it's a little squishy. And I think, Tommy, your dad was talking about that a little bit in the short video he did today about that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of mountains here, and I mean, it's got Baja suspension, right, which is designed for lots of travel and incredible jountability. So when you start getting it on a twisty road, like, you do get a little bit of the float. Absolutely, it's still like if you've driven a first gen Raptor with the V8 F-150, it's not like that. So those are really soft, like they were kind of like 70s Cadillac.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more firm. It's kind of, I mean, it does, like Mitchell said, it rides pretty similarly to a third generation F-150 Raptor, the latest one.
Well, question, because steering racks and tie rods on these things are the number one issue right now for the enthusiast about this vehicle. Did you feel, because you guys have the first edition, do you feel like, I know the steering wheel is bigger, but do you feel like it any difference in the rack? Does it feel more refined, or is it sloppy?
No, I mean, it's not sloppy. I think off of dead center, you've got a little bit more maybe play before you get the turn in, before the tire will bite, just because you have so much more sidewall. But yeah, it's pretty similar. I mean, the big difference, the only kind of big complaint I had with it off road is when you are in low range. I think it's got 470 gears, so they're pretty aggressive in the axle ratio. And if you stick it in first gear and you're in the automatic mode, how are they saying? I think the Raptor will default to first gear in auto if you're in low range, whereas a standard Bronco will default to second gear in auto if you're in low range. So it's got this enormous kind of kick in the butt when it shifts from first to second. So you really got to be ready for it. So if you're on a trail, you're going over something really technical, it's in first gear, and then you're like, all right, over it, hit the throttle, and that thing hits second. I mean, it's like, it really shoves you in the back. So what I do is, like, when you're rock crawling, it's almost better to stick it in like manual mode and then use a paddle, just so you know exactly when it's going to shift. So that's kind of the biggest difference off road between the two, and then just the stability. I mean, it's kind of like the Raptor thing, where I think very few people actually have a spot to open it up. But I mean, we were at the King of the Hammers race course, and we were doing stuff like in this Raptor where, 50, 60, 65 miles an hour, where in your Gladiator, my Wrangler, we'd be doing like 25, just, getting shaken to death. So that's going to be your biggest difference off-road. But yeah, I mean, they took us through some pretty major, the crawling section, and I've got a video coming up on TFL Off-Road tomorrow, but they took us through this crawl section, which was probably an 8 or a 9 out of 10. Like, they had to have spotters every few feet. And on the first drive of the Bronco, it was super conservative with the off-roading. So I thought it would be kind of the same with the Raptor, but they were definitely putting you in situations where you were like maxing out approach angle, hitting the hitch, using the rock rails and some of these
Yeah.
off-road bits. So that was cool. And it
Yeah.
really kicks ass as a rock crawler too, which I think is kind of surprising for Raptor. Not a lot of folks think of Raptors as rock crawlers.
Well, that's nice because usually the press events that I've been to are just like they don't want anybody doing anything that would
Yeah.
ever look bad, And
They
I
put
know,
a sticker on it that says, yes, this can go into the rough terrain
yes,
or not.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, that's nice that. And I did see Bronco Nation dropped a video today, a little bit of the course you were talking about, and no, it looked really fun, and I was pretty jealous that we're not getting that invite yet, Kelly.
I know.
I know.
Come on.
We were very fortunate to go on that one, but yeah, it was cool. They really knocked out of the park, and they were really not conservative about letting us kind of rip it around. And even like the high speed stuff, it was really cool because they had like big stretches where they're like, all right, open it up, go as fast as you want. And then they had this arrow system where if you saw 2 down arrows, it was like, all right, slam on the brakes because you're going to hit something. And if you hit it at 60, you're going to tear out the underside. So they had like special places marked for us idiots on the spot where it was like, all right, there's a jump coming up. You can't hit it at 60. You have to do it at 15.
Right.
So that was pretty fun.
Well, so you guys have the first edition. I'm assuming there's going to be a comparison video that you guys have to do of those side by side. But what are a couple key things that you like about one that maybe they finally did better in the Raptor?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, not that I have an issue with the seats in the standard Bronco, but I really thought the seats in the Raptor were super good. I know you guys have probably sat in them. Did you think the same? I mean, I thought
they were
really
a lot
supportive.
of bolstering. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
they really you can tell they really spend a lot of time and effort on the Raptor variants of pretty much all of the seats for all of the different Raptor variants, F-150s, and even in the past.
Yeah, totally. The digital gauge cluster kicks ass. I mean, it really is way better than what you can get in any other Bronco.
It wouldn't took much on that.
Well, I'm hoping that they bring it over in maybe future model years as an option, which they might. But yeah, I mean, it's not so much from a configurability standpoint, but just the graphics are way better. The information you can display in different pods is way better, a little bit more in depth. I think that I like the tire more on the Raptor. I think that I have no issue with what's on the current Bronco, but like it's not a snow rated tire.
Right.
So here in Colorado, we did run it in the winter. It was fine, but that KO2 is actually like 3 peak snowflake rated. So when you get it to like 10 degrees or 0 degrees, it's not going to turn into a hockey puck. So that was really good.
I have a lot of issues with those Goodyears, but that's for another show.
I think what the first edition does better and what other Broncos do better, I really like the little half moon turns that they have on the fender flares. I think that's super smart, right? How if you clip one on the tree, you can just pull them off. On the Raptor, they're actually bolted in, which is probably okay for a Raptor, but it's just like a really nice thing to be able to clip and unclip them.
Yeah, that was a comment we got a lot when they were brought one to Supercell East in Tennessee, a big Bronco event they do here, and they had one there, and that was I got more questions. Hey, look under this thing. Can you undo those fenders? And I was like,
well, honestly, that was my number one question when we were going to, because we talked a lot about, the different shape of it. Had they redesigned under the fender itself? And the truth was, yes, we did find that, because I assumed that they didn't, and they just did minor tweaks. But
it's a wider fender too. So,
but I mean, in the sense of like, to me, from a production standpoint, it would make sense to have the same interchangeable, but obviously it's not. So we found that out.
I think that the standard Bronco does a lot of things really, really well. I think that like we talked about, the width for most folks, I really think a lot of people are going to buy this thing, bring it home, and be like, oh, this does not fit in my garage at all. Like I would strongly recommend measuring, especially not even the width, but even the height. This is just a really big vehicle. And then the fuel mileage is pretty horrific for what it is.
Yeah, that boggles my mind a little bit, how bad the fuel economy is on this thing, because I mean, I can hyper mine and get 21 out of my Sasquatch package with the 2.7, but
he can.
On average, I usually get about 17, and Kelly will get about 15 in it.
Yeah,
just the 2.7. But I did expect just a little bit more out of that 3.0 in that thing.
Yeah, it's pretty poor in terms of on paper numbers, and in the real world, it's pretty much with on paper, at least based off the computer. And then Wes had one other thing that the standard Bronco does better. I mean, value, it's just for more folks, way more attainable, right?
Yeah.
It's not nearly as expensive in availability, even though a standard Bronco is hard to get, it's more gettable than the Raptor, which is
So
certainly a
that's a
big
good
thing.
segue into one of our viewers' questions. In
Yeah.
your opinion, and this can go to anybody, is the Bronco Raptor suspension worth the $20K MSRP over Wild Track?
What do you think, Mitchell? What do you think?
I mean, I haven't had a chance to drive it yet. I don't think if it's the way I think it's going to drive, I don't think it's worth the extra money. If you don't factor in resale ability, because there's one thing that, take 2020 and 2021 and 2020, take all these weird valuations that vehicles are doing right now. Even before that, the Raptor was by far the best resale value out of any vehicle Ford has ever had. And so if you factor that in, it's absolutely worth the increase in price. If you don't factor that in, then it's probably not worth it MSRP to MSRP. I am more of a customized guy, as you guys know.
That explains the T-shirt.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you. But I kind of like to make something my own, and I don't think for 20 grand I can make you a killer suspension.
Yeah. Well. So, but with the Wild Track, they have the weird option now of the 3.0 suspension system, which is strange to me. And Tommy, I'm curious, both you and Mitchell on this, because Mitchell, you want to sell these things, and Tommy, you want to report on these things. The Wild Track, initially we thought, okay, that is the Raptor version of the Bronco. When it came out, it really was no improvement over any other model. Honestly, it was just, well, cool. It's the Sasquatch package with carpet. But then I think Ford realized they were taking some heat with their crowd and decided, well, for an extra price, we'll give you a little bit better suspension system. But if you take that suspension system, what is it? I think you're in about 60 for that Wild Track with that system, somewhere in there, Mitchell, maybe. But then you go, okay, maybe 10,000 more. I can get the Raptor with the supposedly bigger engine. And obviously the Raptor is going to have resale. I think a lot of the people that ordered this year are going to hold on to them, not drive them. They're going to baby them and thinking, well, I'll flip them next year and go on. But I think if I had to look at the two, Wild Track for me would be it. But where is it for you guys?
I've got okay. So go ahead, Tommy. I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say, so the interesting thing with the Raptor, and this was kind of the big surprise, and especially talking to the engineers, and even off camera, is they spent a huge amount of work in the suspension, which is related to like the F-150 Raptor, which is a lot of money. But it's all the stuff that the suspension mounts to, which is going to be just about impossible to replicate. So it's got entirely different front shock towers, right, which are massively strengthened over any other Bronco. It's got a reinforced frame. At the rear, the control arm mounts are beefed up. It's got a totally different rear axle. So it's got a Dana 50, which is the wall on the Dana 50 is like twice as thick as a Dana 44. It's got forged control arms in the front. It's got Raptor brakes, right? It's got Raptor knuckles on the ends of the control arms. And all of that stuff is going to be super hard to, and maybe even impossible to replicate. So I think you could get a Bronco to look just as cool. You can make it just as wide. You can make it ride nice. But if you're really one of those folks that want to go out in the desert and do 70 miles an hour over dunes, that's where like having that B bar on the sports bar matters, and the carbon fiber reinforced in the back, and then all those frame changes. That's where it's really gonna come into play.
I agree completely. I do have a question, so the timeline that you mentioned on that Wild Track, where they started out with a Wild Track that was like this, and then they added that Haas 3.0 system. I'm curious. So it was interesting to me to see your take on how that timeline worked. Tommy, I guess this question is for you. Do you think that that's how the timeline went? Or do you think that it was more or less the Wild Track was always destined to get that higher end suspension system, and that Ford couldn't produce it in time, and so they just had kind of an extremely late launch for that higher end suspension? They just kind of put the normal Sasquatch package on it until we could get the parts needed to do the Haas 3.0. Does that make sense? I guess chicken or the egg, which one do you think came first?
That's a great question. I didn't ask him, and maybe that I should have asked him. That's a great point. What I will say is like the Bronco Raptor was planned basically from the get-go. So like that wasn't like we're going to start development on the Bronco and then someone came in and be like, well, what about a Raptor? It sounds like basically the two programs started at a very similar time. But I think that it's a good thing that they finally differentiated the wild track. It could have been like a parts availability thing, right? Or a supplier. Maybe the supplier didn't have the wild track changes in place that they needed to when they started production. But yeah, it's a great question. I'm not sure I have a good answer for you.
Well, that was all with Tommy. No. No, but the wild track it's a head scratcher for me, and especially as you're saying, and I've tried to tell people this, that they didn't just by December of 20 go, oh, now we're doing a Raptor. No, it's always been a part of the plan. But the wild track for me it's a strange, because you have the Badlands, which is the equivalent to the Rubicon. So, and then Jeep comes out with the what's their desert running package?
Mojave.
Yeah, the Mojave. But really, I wouldn't take that thing, and I wouldn't do what you guys did in Johnson Valley with a Mojave at all. And I know it is strengthened up a little bit as well, but I don't see the value in that vehicle for that. But it's just a strange vehicle, and it is interesting, Mitchell, that you were saying, well, maybe they just didn't have the parts in time. But
I don't know. I'm asking the question because I've always wanted, because like you say, prior to the Haas 3.0, it seemed like a redundant, not a bad package. It just seemed like a redundant package compared to it's like a Badlands with no stabilizer bar disconnect.
Yeah. Well,
which I love.
Oh no! Oh yeah, no. It's well documented.
I just had to put it in there, just gotta say it.
Oh man, so Tommy, kind of timeline us a little bit on. They flew you out a couple weeks ago out to Johnson Valley. Obviously, they tell you what you're about to drive. It's not like they blindfolded you and just said, "You're here in the middle of the desert. Here's a Raptor." But how did the press trip go? Because usually they bring you out, they wine and dine you the first night, and then they throw you in the trucks. Did Ford treat you well?
Yeah, they did treat us well. It was a little different, so we flew in, and then we did basically an on-road driving for the kind of like the afternoon of the day one. So they kind of really wanted to show us what that was like. So we did this on-road driving portion, and then real super early morning of day two, we actually drove out to the desert, and then we did our more mild off-roading in some shiny trucks. And then they were like, all right, you did the mild, now we're going to throw you in the extreme stuff. And these are the ones that were all battle scarred up. So they had like the steps removed and the front end removed, which I think kind of looks a little goofy, actually. Like when you pull the end caps off, it almost looks unfinished. And obviously you're removing parts from the vehicle, but you have this like
the holes.
Flat, the holes in the flat bar, and you're like, I feel like there should be some finishing caps in there or something. But yeah, so then we went through this really difficult off-road course where we were just bashing skid plates and curving wheels left and right. And then in the afternoon, we went and did some high-speed stuff where we kind of ripped around this lake bed first in an autocross, and then they took us to an actual race course and said, go crazy. So we got a couple loops in there. And then they showed us the Raptor R, the F-150. So they brought that out.
I saw y'all's video on that. And that was pretty unexpected, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, we'd seen like spy shots and stuff that it was coming, but it was finally nice to know, like, all right, it's actually an official product, which is coming later this year. Which is
a funny vehicle that they haven't attempted to hide that, really. You see spy photos. I think you guys have probably gotten the same photos. Just you just see the little R down there, and it's like, if you didn't know, I don't think most people would realize what that is.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it was a great trip, and I was really fortunate that I had the chance to go on it. But yeah, my overall takeaways was it was incredible in the desert. I mean, I don't have a chance to do a lot of desert running because, like you guys, I just deal with trees. But for what it was amazing. They let us to jump it too, so we got a little bit of air.
Nice.
And
nice.
You could feel those live valve kick in and stiffen everything up when you land, which was really, really good. I think that, like we talked about, the major downside is probably going to be fuel economy, width, availability. It's going to be a whole thing. It's going to be a big challenge.
Availability, our buddy Mitchell might know about that.
Yeah. What's the timeline looking like on the Raptor?
I'll pray for you. That's what it is. No, it's one of those things, for those of you, and I know the people on video right now probably already know this, but the way that Ford did that is, and I'd say thankfully, a lot of these people placed reservations back in July 13th of 2020. That day, I remember that day because that was the launch of the normal Bronco. And if you had your reservation still in place, they sent out an email to everybody that said, hey, if you're interested in the Bronco Raptor, let us know. Click here by letting us know. And then Ford went back through and they basically selected the oldest reservation timestamps that raised their hand and said, congratulations, we selected you to earn a Bronco Raptor allocation. If you'd like it, just see your dealer and we can convert it for you. I'm very glad Ford did it that way, because some of these other dealers that don't do things maybe by the book would probably be handing out the Bronco Raptors willy-nilly to who they thought was their best selection.
Right.
So props to Ford for selecting the oldest reservation timestamps there. I do think that's a good idea. But the downside to that is if you're late to the game and you say, hey, I want a Bronco Raptor, I'd say 98% of the Bronco Raptors that are going to be built this year are going to be built for those reservation hand raisers. I just call them hand raisers. There are onesies and twosies at some dealerships where they'll have one that comes available, or not comes available, but was extra allocation in addition to the hand raisers. But most dealers got very, very few Bronco Raptors, and they already were pre-selected who the owners will be.
Yeah, and somebody actually mentioned in the chat, which I have actually seen some folks talk about this, is that they got lucky enough to get the golden ticket, but then their dealer said, oh, hey, by the way, if you want to cash in your golden ticket, then you're going to pay $25,000 above the MSRP to go ahead and take advantage of that golden ticket, and I'm with you. I'm all about, I think it's great that they offered it to the earliest reservation holders. They handed it out, but we've talked about this to nauseum, that it's like these people wanted it. They got the golden ticket, and now they've got to decide, can I financially do this? Do I want to financially do this? And there's no catch. There's no catch behind it.
You lose your reservation.
And then you lose your reservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. NDM 84 said that was him. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That frustrates me to no end. You know, I mean, this, I'm not trying to advertise our dealership, because all of our Bronco Raptors are already sold out. So I'm not trying to sell anybody on this live stream a Bronco Raptor. But it frustrates me that the dealers are doing that to people after they've been waiting for 2 years for a truck. And so the only way I know how to change it is trying to lead by example and just make it as loud as I can. That, you know, it's the same thing with the Lightnings. You know, the number, I saw an F-150 Lightning go across the auction block today, and the dealer no-sailed it, meaning it wasn't high enough of a value. He no-sailed it at $140,000.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, Tommy, you should tell Dad that it's time to sell already.
Yeah, right. No, we can't ethically do that. But that's pretty. I mean, it's a fantastic truck, but it's not a $140,000 fantastic truck.
Well, it's the same with the Hubbers right now. That's ridiculous.
I know, same thing. Yeah.
And I wouldn't want that thing. Like, people have not seen it in person. Those are freaking huge.
I know.
Oh man. So Mitchell, you said all yours were gone. Around how many did you get to sell? Or I know you can't say.
I'm actually not allowed to tell you how many allocations I got, but I can tell you that it was between 12 and 14.
Wow.
Huh.
So,
wow.
That's good.
If you're good at math, you might be able to figure it out.
He's not good at math.
No, I don't really care, because the allocations are already, and almost all of them are scheduled for production. We ended up getting 13 Bronco Raptors. And that's the good thing about having a lot of Bronco reservations, is we got a lot of Bronco Raptors. So we're very blessed in that regard.
Is it based on the number of Bronco reservations you have in total? Is that how they're
based from what is made public? It's based on a couple things. One heavy component is the Bronco reservations. Also happens to do with how many Broncos you sold in 21. It also has to do with how many overall vehicles you sold the prior year. So and then I'm sure there's a couple of hidden things that I don't know about, but those are the things that I do.
Speaking of heavy, 5,700 pounds for a Bronco Raptor.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
That's why that 2.7 can keep up with it.
Right.
Did it feel that heavy, Tommy?
Yeah, it feels like 5,700 pounds. Yeah, when you're pointing down like 40 degrees, you're like, this is a lot of weight.
Probably especially when it's swaying a little bit with that soft suspension a little bit too.
Yeah.
So what I learned, which is interesting, is that 3 liter is very closely related to the 2.7.
Yep.
So all the comparisons, and I made this comparison too, was like, oh, it's the engine out of the Explorer ST. And then at the end of the engineer was like, it's basically a 2.7. It's got different turbos on it.
Mhm.
He was said, and he had to check the fact check, but he said that the turbos actually might be smaller on the 3-liter versus the 2.7, but it can flow a lot more air. So it can flow 50% more air in the intake and then like 30% more out the exhaust. So they can kind of mess with the turbos, and then it's got they went to a different department for tuning on that engine, so it's got a slightly different tune. I'm not sure I love the sound in Baja mode. It kind of sounds like a pissed off like trombone player. I mean, it makes a lot of noise. It's just like I'm not sure this is a really good noise, but it does make a lot of it.
That's one thing with the when the F-150 went to the V6 that it just lost its manhood a little bit. And is it fast? Sure, it's fast as can be. But if you put that up to, and I know you guys have driven the TRX is night and day. Whether it's truly a competitor to the Raptor or not, it sounds so much better. Even the 392, which I know you guys are playing around with, there's nothing, you cannot replicate a V8 exhaust sound with a turboed V6.
Well, they're definitely taking a different approach than I guess what Stellantis now, and you see it a little bit like TRX and Raptor, but you really see it a lot with the Raptor and then like the 392. So you can tell that Jeep spent all of their money shoehorning this engine into the engine bay of that 392, and then they changed some stuff, like it's got different wheels and slightly different suspension, and then it's got like gold tow hooks. And then the press materials spend a lot of time telling you that we've changed all this other stuff. You're like, have you really? And then it's like the exact flip with the Raptor, right? So they changed the exterior design and the suspension and the frame, and then they spent a lot of time trying to convince you that they also changed the engine. So it's like an exact inverse of the 392.
Well, we were at Tawa event last year, and they had the 392 there, and they had the 4xe and all that. Mm-hmm. And that was one thing that bothered us, was nothing felt special. We have a Gladiator that we drive daily. And between that and the 392, for what you pay for it, the interior wise, nothing, it just didn't feel special. And that is something that the Raptor seems to at least have done, is stepped up everything. They've plussed it by 10 from what the Badlands was.
Yeah, like the 392 is like a slightly different steering wheel and seats, but you're right. I mean, and I think that was kind of a miss on Jeep's part, because as Mitchell kind of pointed out, a lot of the appeal to the Raptor is having that look and having that aura of having the baddest ass truck. And you see like a 392 driving down the road, and even I have to like squint and like try to see the tailpipes.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing needs like side pipes and flames and the light bars on it. Like, they should have done stuff to make it look super different. And I know they were kind of going for that sleeper vibe, but it's very hard to sell a sleeper to the average consumer, especially if you're spending 75, 80, 90 grand. You typically want to show your neighbor, at least here in the States, hey, I just spent 90 grand on my Jeep. It looks different
besides
than yours.
Just with the rev, just with the rumbles. Yeah. You want to stand out a little bit. To your point, you can't really tell looking at it unless you know what you're looking at.
We've complained about the TRX about that. Yeah. It's sometimes hard to pick out in traffic. You're like, a Raptor, I can pick out a Raptor, F-150 Raptor, like nothing else.
Especially
but TRX,
if they debadge it, then it's done.
Yeah.
The one thing I still don't...
I am so thankful for the TRX, because that push, if it wasn't for the Ram TRX, Ford would never come out with a Gen 3 Raptor R. I am confident in that. That's what pushed that truck.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So what you're saying is we'll get a V8 Raptor R Bronco one of these days, right? I know the audience here would love that.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for the Bronco, you wouldn't have the 392. So I think everybody kind of went out there. So the one thing, what do you guys think of the flares? I know that's been the big hot topic.
I think I've documented my opinions pretty well on those. I think they're horrible. I think somebody like Advanced Fiberworks or somebody will solve that problem pretty quickly, where you can have some painted body matching. And the excuse that they give for this is the worst. Well, we couldn't go down the line with it. And it's like, I have plastic fenders on my normal Bronco that you put on at the end of the line. Like, don't tell me you couldn't. They have the OBX Outer Banks.
Painted.
The Outer Banks has snap-on painted matched fenders. I don't understand, and I know from what I've heard is the number one color for Raptor Bronco is black, because the fenders actually match the vehicle. So I'm not a fan of those. They look like an afterthought to me.
Well, the thing I struggle with is, like, they changed the fenders, right? So the fenders themselves, and if you look at them like next to a Sasquatch, you're like, they're pretty darn different. And they went to an SMC, that molded material. I'm like, well, why didn't you just make the mold deeper and go with the smaller flare?
Yeah,
thank you. Because I mean, they even had to remove the gas tank nozzle because the flares were in the way. So they had to redesign pretty much everything. I'm kind of the same opinion. I'll never forget. I guess this was a year ago, 2 years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but we went to a Ford dealer meeting, and they rolled it was a production or a pre-production. They literally had to push it onto the stage, but it was visually exactly what we got delivered. And I remember looking at that. I looked at my business partner. I said, "Oh my goodness!" And that's the exact same reason that I went into my Badlands and decided I wanted to do the fiberglass wide body kit.
Yeah.
Was because I wanted a wider Bronco, but I did not want it to look like that Raptor. I can't get over it.
Mitchell, there's a question for you, and I know we just went over it, but he's probably late to the stream. It says, has Mitchell heard anything about the Haas 3.0 Wild Tracks recently? Mine was built about 3 weeks ago, but none have been delivered yet. Maybe Ford was waiting for the Raptor to drop. Any idea on when those are supposed to ship?
I have not heard anything there. I usually go back through pretty much once a week and look at our ordering. Our order bank, Webdo is what Ford calls it, and I can see where everybody's vehicle is, but I don't have an easy way to tell which Wild Track has the Haas 3.0 and which one doesn't. And so I'd have to go through every one of our Wild Track orders, and it's just not very time efficient. So I haven't been watching it very, very closely. I mean, I can see that the production overall on the Bronco has slowed down pretty drastically. I've got a ton of Broncos that are held up on what Ford calls their VOW, the vehicle on wheels. It's microchip shortage.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the biggest thing is this holding things up is the microchip shortage is just as bad as it has been.
John Burnett is asking, will Ford get all the Everglades out in 22? And I know there wasn't the take. I think we had talked about this a little bit, Mitchell, but there wasn't a big take on that like they thought it might have been. And now
not at all.
They're delaying colors. And Tommy earlier said that you're going next week to a press event on that, probably a drive. And so maybe the Everglades. Tommy, where are you at with that? Because we haven't talked since they've dropped that one. It's a strange something that could be maybe a one and done kind of thing. Where are you at with that vehicle?
Yeah, I think it's I definitely think it was a gamble for Ford. I don't think it's a typical kind of move for a manufacturer to appeal to someone who's looking for that ultimate overland crowd. But I do think that it does offer some interesting accessories that, in one convenient bundle. Now, like you talked about, it is pricey to the average consumer. I think they're looking at it and thinking, I don't know if I'm getting that much more over what my standard Bronco can do. So obviously, like when the Raptor, you're like, you can see the suspension changes and you're like, that's a lot more capability. On the Everglade, I think folks are having a slightly harder time maybe visualizing that.
Yeah.
But that's the one that I think in 50 years, people are going to be like, oh, that was pretty cool. Maybe we should have bought more of those,
Toyota played with the whole snorkel from the factory thing. And they nailed that one pretty quick, right? I don't think that was on a TRD very long.
Yeah, it was the desert air intake. They were like, bashed us over the head with that. Like, it is not a snorkel. Our lawyers say it cannot be a snorkel under any circumstance. So it's a desert air intake. But
and then Ford comes at it like, no, it's a snorkel. Let's go play in the water.
Right. Exactly. So I think that I really like the wheel design on the Everglades. I think it's a really cool looking wheel. I do like the overall graphic package.
You do?
It's definitely, I do think it's kind of interesting. It's just so different.
Yeah, it is that. I call it the billboard, Tommy, because it's a billboard as you drive by.
Yeah, but once again, I think Ford knows their consumer, right? Their consumer wants to advertise that they bought something that their neighbor doesn't have, and that definitely screams, you don't have this one. So
nobody does.
Nobody does right now. Exactly right. Nobody does right now. But I think it's a much harder sell than a Raptor, right?
Yeah.
And this has always been the Power Wagon issue. It's easy to advertise a Raptor because you can jump it. Power Wagon's like, let's go slow through the rocks. Well, that doesn't appeal to your inner 3-year-old. I mean, nobody's like, oh, I want to go maneuver gently and see my approach angle, departure, and articulation. It's easy to sell something going over dunes at 90 versus winching a tractor out of the field.
You mean when you were a kid and had these little Hot Wheels, you weren't slowly crawling over rocks? Because I know I was like, I was sliding it through the dirt and having fun.
Well, I was a nerd, so I was like, paying attention to wheel articulation. Exactly. Yeah.
So you had a little Hot Wheels RTI ramp, is what you're saying?
I did. Yes, exactly. It was a pen actually on a ramp. Yeah.
So I do have some actual numbers on the Everglades. I pulled up my ordering system while we were talking, and so we have 548 current orders for Bronco only in our system right now.
Wow.
You guys want to guess how many of those are Bronco Everglades?
Ooh,
5.
Ooh.
Any guesses?
3.
I got 5.
I'm going to put some hope in the overlanding community. 17.
4 is the correct answer.
Oh,
less than
oh,
1%
Kelly.
take rate. That's less than 1. That's 0.7% take rate if my redneck arithmetic is right.
Wow.
Man, your redneck arithmetic is way closer than my Michigan arithmetic would have been. So
How do you guys like the way that
it is a much better vehicle than a 1% take rate would lead you to believe. That's all I've got to say on that.
Yeah.
I do you think it's the 2.3 engine only? Do you think that's the killer?
Well, I think it's that combined with the starting price. I think if you're 53 starting or something like that, if you're an average consumer and you're like, well, that's a lot of money to buy what's essentially a 4-cylinder.
Well, had they not maybe come out with the winch, the additional winch plate at the launch and some of those things and made that a part of just that package, I think it would have been felt more special. But there's nothing about it other than really the snorkel and wheels I guess the fenders are square too.
Hallelujah. Those are the best looking fenders that Ford has from the factory. That's what the Bronco Raptor should have looked like. So
there you go. So here's a question for you. So knowing now, hindsight's always 2020. Do you guys think that there would have been more Everglades folks had they known that there was more chance of their Bronco being built if they chose Everglades?
Yeah, I mean, if I think people, especially Americans, can get their cars sooner, I think they would do a lot of ways.
Amazon
spend
culture,
a lot
man.
of money.
Yeah.
That's a great point about the fender flares. I never thought about that. Why spend all that money developing a new fender flare to make it slightly more square?
I think you know why. Because the Heritage Edition is coming. And I've supposedly heard rumors that the plant has a few that's been produced. Is all I know. And,
okay, gotcha.
So I think it was just like an easy way of going, we can get those out pretty quickly.
Yeah, because you have to spread that cost over several product lines.
Yeah, I would think so.
Especially if it's not going to be a big take rate.
Because stamping's not cheap.
Yeah, no, God.
Mm-mm.
Millions for sure.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of the way that Ford has integrated the winch on the front of these vehicles?
Oh, I think it's horrible. I really when you can't figure out your own camera system,
yes,
and you're trying to sell a winch that completely blocks. A Warren winch is a great winch, but the way it's set up, the way you have to mount the controller box, it completely blocks it. And it's like, who was it marketing that just said, hey, we need a winch out here real quick. Come on, guys. And
or was it an afterthought?
Yeah, but Tommy, for me, like you've got a bunch of good companies out there like Hefty Fab Works and a bunch of the guys that I know out that way. They do a better winch bumper than Ford will ever do. And that's what I know Mitchell did the same thing. I ditched my capable bumper, whatever what they call the modular bumper. I ditched that as soon as I could because I was surprised how well it was built, but there's no way I don't like my winch to stick out. If I'm going to rear end somebody, I don't want their kids to eat the winch in the back seat,
Oh, wow. You just gave it a visual.
Well, no, but I mean, seriously,
Dude.
There is a factor of that.
And that's all, guys. Good night.
Right. and stream.
Mitchell's lawyer calls, cut. No, but I like the stuff to be protected. Normally, I don't, even with most of these bumpers, they're sticking in the weather, which is never a great thing to have your winch. I don't even care if you put a cover over it. It's never going to last that way. But no, for me, I think the Ford setup is pretty bad. But Mitchell, have you guys sold a bunch of that?
We have, but we've also ran into some serious issues. And this is where I'm really excited. We kind of have a unique not excited. That's not the right word. I'm glad to be able to share like a unique perspective because we've installed these. So on that winch setup, it says blatantly you're not allowed to install it on a Lux package. And just like me and everybody else would think that, well, the Lux package comes with adaptive cruise control. And so the reason you can't put it is because it messes up with adaptive cruise control. That's logical, right?
Right.
That's not the reason. And we had a customer that said, well, hey, I have a Lux package, but I hate adaptive cruise. I'll never use it. I'll turn it off. I said, okay, if you want, we can experiment and put this exact same kit on there. It mechanically bolts up, no problem. The real reason is because the calibration of the front parking sensors on a Lux is different than it is to a high package. So if you put that front winch on there, every time you go less than 5 miles an hour, it goes beep, 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 because it thinks you're going to hit a wall, and it'll drive you nuts. And every time you get in the car, you have to press the button to turn it off. It will drive you mad. Ask me how I know.
Tommy, where are you at with this setup?
I think if I was a betting man, I would bet it's because of fuel economy and safety regulations. I mean, it's the amount of hurdles that these companies have to jump through, even to offer a modular bumper, let alone one that can accommodate a winch, is just absurd. Now, I'm totally on the same page as you, Dave. I think it's I mean, it looks like you rear-ended somebody with a winch rather than having a winch installed on your vehicle, you know? But I do think that it's nice that they offer that as an option, at least, that, you know, you can go out and have that installed. I do wish it was a little bit more integrated in the front end, but like it's not the first time we're seeing that, right? You want to talk about like a difficult vehicle to install a winch on? If you ever see like a 5th gen 4Runner, I mean, they've got like angles and creases and you know, right angles and curves, and I mean, you have to, an aftermarket bumper on a 4Runners, you have to sawzall the top half of your bumper out and trim up the corners. I mean, it's just an absolute mess.
When I feel like Tacoma, or this last generation Tacoma, they were having all kinds of problems. Once you change any of the front end dynamics of it, it screws up the sensors, and they were having to reprogram some of the stuff pretty early on. I may be off on that, but I thought Chris Hefty over there where you're at was telling me they had some issues early on with some of that stuff.
Interesting. I know just Toyotas in general are like notoriously hard to lift. They just, and we're seeing a lot more of this too, actually. So we have this Silverado ZR2, and the manufacturers are designing them in such a way where they're becoming really difficult to lift. So like the upper control arm on a ZR2 on stock 33s is like a centimeter from the sidewall of that tire.
Oh, wow.
So they're really making it difficult for folks to put big tires on them.
You know what's not difficult to lift though? The Ford Lightning, because my buddy Mitchell there has already done one.
Yeah, that was impressive. Yeah, you guys got that done quick.
We did. We got the vehicle in. I did a quick range test. I got back and I said, hey, you know what? I wonder if we could figure out a way to try and be the first one to modify one of these things. And, you know, we intentionally selected the Ready Lift leveling kit because you don't have to trim the studs. So a lot of people don't realize when you level a vehicle, when you take that strut and you put that top hat on top of it, that sometimes that strut is so thin that you have to trim the factory studs so that way the leveling kit fits flush. Well, luckily Ready Lift was the only leveling kit that the puck was thick enough to where you don't have to trim the studs. So I was like, you know what's the worst case scenario? It doesn't work. You didn't have to permanently modify the vehicle, just put it right back to stock and nobody's the wiser. And you know, we were going to make fun of ourselves if it didn't work. We got lucky. It worked. Made a video about it, and in our world, the video has done pretty decent, pretty well. So
I'm sorry that you don't have 6,000 subs, Mitchell. Okay, I'm sorry that you're not in the. Hey, you'll get there, buddy. You both of you. One day, you both will get there, and you'll experience the luxury.
Is this reverse world?
But no, that Lightning is a game changer of a vehicle. That's I think what that'll do. And I know this is a Bronco talk, but. I think what that F-150 Lightning will the way that I look at it is like iPhone versus some of these Android phones. Some of these Android phones come out with some of the most bleeding edge technology, sometimes maybe before the mainstream world is ready to take it on. But when iPhone puts it in their phone, then all of a sudden it's accepted and adopted worldwide. And I have a feeling that the F-150 Lightning is like the Apple of pickup trucks, where now people that will consider an EV when they might not have considered one prior to.
Sorry, Mitchell. I have a Silverado EV on order, buddy, or a reservation. Sorry,
Ain't hurt my
the Lightning
feelings.
wasn't for me.
You ain't hurting my feelings. I just like cool cars. I don't care who they are. I just happen to work at a Ford store.
That's me, Kelly. We got a question here.
Yeah. So Jeff Palmer says, Mitchell, do you think dropping in tow is a bad idea? Does it make that much of a difference with the MIC top and 2.7 engine shortages to leave it off my order? Can the 7-pin be put on later or not?
Fantastic question, Jeff. So if the 7-pin is a deal breaker to you, and unless I'm mistaken, the 7-pin is basically everything you need for trailer brakes. If the trailer brakes are a necessity to you, do not drop the tow package. That period into paragraph. I will tell you though that I think that the Mica top is the number one issue still to this day. Period into paragraph. Then I would say the tow package is probably third, maybe fourth. Things like Sasquatch package, Badlands, and Wild Track, those are causing more issues than the tow package. But the tow package is probably very, very close after that. The tow package that you can add after the fact, if you're good with a 4-pin, you need to highly recommend dropping the tow package, have it installed at a dealership or even aftermarket for all I care. Just know that there's a good bit of labor to run those wires if you want the OEM wiring harness. I will tell you that Kurt and a couple of other aftermarket companies have got a wiring harness that actually taps into it actually plugs in line behind the LED tail lamps. So that way all you have to do is run a power wire underneath the vehicle. You don't have to take all of the interior panels out. So that's probably something I need to make a YouTube video about, because we haven't talked about that publicly, I don't think. But thankfully, the aftermarket has provided us an easier way to install the wiring.
Well, so Tommy, that talking about tops, that brought up a good point. Raptor. It boggles my mind why they did not have painted roofs with these things, body matching roofs. I feel like that was a big miss for Raptor, because I'm a little hit or miss with the tops. And I know you guys had a little bit of gremlins with your first edition top, but it seems like for this vehicle, like that, for $80,000, I should have got a painted matching roof or a black glossy roof with this thing.
Yeah, I kind of think that, as Mitchell pointed out, I don't have that insight into why, but I think that the whole hardtop situation has been much harder and a much bigger hurdle than Ford ever imagined it would be. I really think that was a really big challenge that they faced, and I think that they're just at this point still doing the best to get a consistent quality top out the door as best as they very can. So it would be cool if there was a color matching, but I think at this point the best we can hope for is just a good quality top.
Have you guys gotten your replacement top for yours?
Yeah, I think it took like 6 months, and it came in, and I was kind of hoping that we could hold on to the old one, but they're like, no, we got to take it back. So so I don't know if Mitchell, and I'm sure Mitchell has more insight, but we replaced everything except for the rear glass. So I think the rear glass transferred to our 2.0. So they unbolted it and then bolted it to the new one. But yeah, it's much better. It doesn't rattle like it used to, which is good.
My understanding is they have to cut those tops up. That's
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
this might age me a little bit, but it's kind of like the cash for clunkers back in 2008. Where they would make you seize the motor up so that way it couldn't be used again. Yeah. They just want to make sure that those Mic 1.0s don't end up on the secondhand market. That's pretty much.
So I'm hearing that the 2.0s are starting to separate. Like they're having a little bit of issues with those already.
Haven't heard that.
It's a humidity issue because they use a cardboard inner core, which somehow I'm sure it's not a perfect system, and they're getting a little dampness in there and causing that cardboard to expand slightly and just separate the edges of the top. Tommy, you guys might keep an eye on that.
I will. Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know what it's like out east though, but in Colorado,
Well,
I mean, it's hard top or bust. You really have to have a hard top here. That's a major purchasing decision for a lot of folks.
Well, we were surprised. So we had a hard top on order and just changed it up to the soft top, and
because we wanted our rapid red. We're totally aesthetically snobs.
But
just be honest.
I will say for us, and we got a lot of snow here this year, and it never bothered us at all.
And it wasn't just a lot of snow for Tennessee. It actually was a lot of snow. Like, you know, he's from Ohio, I'm from Michigan, but we live in Tennessee. So like, we know people say, oh, Tennessee, you got a lot of snow. We did. We got about 6 or 8 inches of snow, which like shut our entire town down. And it honestly, it did very well with the amount of snow that it got on. It did get a little bit of condensation snow on the inside, but I can imagine in Colorado, you're getting 6 to 8 inches of snow on every day or every snowfall.
I mean, Kelly, I'm in the same boat as you. Like I've run soft tops on my Wranglers for years in winter, and I've never really had an issue. But you're never going to convince the average person of that.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you can yell that as louder, as rationally as you want. But like, you go to our local Jeep dealers, and they're like, if it doesn't have a hard top, it's not leaving the lot. It just sits and sits and sits and sits.
Well, until some dumb East Coast guy moves that way, he's like, "Hey, what's this?"
I hope Ford does some kind of power top. I think that's been a much bigger seller for Jeep than they ever imagined.
Has it really? Because I see a few, but I just never notice them.
Yeah, no, it's been enormous. I mean, that's like, if you want to talk about something that's constraining Jeep production more than anything, if you want to get a power top, it's like, geez, they're really hard to get.
Good to know.
So people really love them.
I remember Nathan and your dad did a video. You guys had one probably 5 years ago or so, and they played around with that top, and that's really the last time I've paid attention to those things.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think it's I mean, as easy as a new tops are to fold back.
Yeah.
It can still, if you can do it with a button instead of even folding something back, it's like, wow, I can do it with a button. People love it.
Well, and speaking of that, you guys on yours, so you had the little gremlins with the hard top, and you guys replaced it pretty quickly with the best top, which I'm kind of jealous of. But then you went and you got the new hard top, and now you have the best top, the little Sunriser or whatever they call it out front, right?
Sunrider. Yep.
Yeah. How? So you are the best guy to talk about tops because you seem to have a little experience with every bit of them. What are some pluses and minuses out of all three options?
Yeah, I think that the MIC offers a lot of, the most security of all the tops. So if you live in an area where you worry about someone breaking in, it certainly is going to be the hardest to break into. I think it's also it's much easier than the Wrangler tops to pull off in their entirety, but it still is a little bit of a pain to pull off. And then you got to kind of wrestle them into the soft top bags, whereas having a soft top or having that little Sunrider, you can just flip back. The downside of the Sunriders, it is going to make your cabin a little bit louder, maybe not quite as loud as like a full soft top. But then the Pros, you just fold it back and you can get the fun in the sun experience really quickly. And then I think the full soft top, as Mitchell pointed out, you can get them right. That Bronco wave thing in the rear quarter window, every
Does
time
that bother
I see it,
you?
I'm like,
really?
So he's one that bothers him.
It used to not bother me until I went to Bronco Super Celebration and I saw mine parked right next to a best top, and I was like, okay, I didn't realize that those waves bothered me until I saw them parked side by side. And yeah, now I understand why we've sold so many of those best tops on our website is for that exact reason.
My understanding, they're hard to get right now too. Like
the best tops?
Yeah, they're way behind.
No,
really?
I've got a big old inventory of every one for a Bronco.
Oh, we got to be best friends because we're gonna have to talk.
Yeah, I've got more than 25 of each SKU for Bronco related. The reason I know that is I looked at it like 2 days ago.
Oh,
so
David Kelly, do you like that way that soft top opens in the back where it does like the clamshelly thing?
He's done it more than I have. I'm just a quick in the front, kind of push it back, but we've done it only a couple times, right?
I'm not a big fan of that because it does block, in your video, or maybe it was your dad's video, talking about the big tire in the back with the Raptor now.
Yeah.
That I can't imagine, like, at some point somebody with a Raptor is going to, hey, there's a soft top. We can throw that on there. We'll buy it used off of Craigslist or something. And can you imagine having that sandwiched between the big tire and what you have, like that much actual you can see out of the rear view mirror? No, I think the best top is, it looks a little goofy when you fold it back and it doesn't go all the way down like the Wabastos top does. But I like the Wabastos better in safari mode. I think it just looks much better than the best top. But I'm pretty sure by the end of the summer, our side glass on our Wabastos top will be all tore up, because the way you pull those apart is a nightmare. Trying to get them back together is a nightmare. And then you see they stitched canvas into hard plastic, and that just doesn't, I don't see that working out very well.
It's not a nightmare. You just don't have the patience to do it, because I did it myself one day.
She called you out.
Yeah, because there was one day that weather was coming and I was like, oh crap, I got to get the windows on. And like, I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this by myself. And I totally did it by myself. So it's like, he just doesn't have the patience for it. But to the point,
it's that damn wave is what it is.
Yeah, that's it. I've already noticed that we're probably going to have some rips and spots, and we've been very careful with it. So that is a concern to me of like, is this the beginning of the end on this thing already? And we've only had it since November.
Yeah.
And we've taken it off maybe a handful of times.
It's a great point. So someone in your comments, and they actually brought up a great point, that Jeep Power Top is actually made by Webasto. And like I've had a lot of conversation with the Webasto guys. And if it's got a convertible top, it's probably a Webasto. And if it's not made by a Webasto, it's going to be a complete disaster.
Well,
so
a lot
they
of
have like
the
all
C8
the patents.
The C8 Target top is all Wabastos. They make all of that. And that was funny with Bronco early on. People were like, oh, they need to find another company. I'm like, you realize that is the company for this.
Well, yeah.
They're just working off a design that Ford came up with and said, make this work.
Yeah, and if it's got a convertible top, there's a 99% chance it's Webasto, because they have all of the patents and all of the licenses. And like, so the examples that stick out that aren't are remember the Nissan Murano Cross Cabriolet?
Oh yeah,
the $6,000 top.
Yeah, remember that thing?
Yeah,
it has 100% failure rate, and now you can't get parts.
So it's funny. We were actually talking to someone with Nissan, and his wife really, really wanted one, and he works for Nissan, and he can't get one obviously because they don't make them anymore. He found one locally here. What did he say? They wanted like $30,000 or something on it, or 25, and then they wanted like another like $10,000 to put a new top on it or something. And he's like, you realize who I work for. There's no sense in that.
Worst vehicle ever.
Yeah, she really wants one. And he's like, I just can't do it because the top is
Tommy
ridiculous.
Couldn't wait to when he was younger, when that was out. Like, hey, Dad, are you getting that? Let's review that turd.
That's funny you say that, though.
The Pontiac Aztek was worse. That's all I got to say.
The tennis shoe rolling down the road. Yeah.
Have you seen like the values on Cross Cabriolets? So they're ridiculously expensive. I mean,
really?
I don't know who's collecting them or who's buying them. Yeah, but they're consistently twice as expensive as the standard Murano.
That's hilarious, because I challenged my audience one time. I was like, if you guys super chat enough, I will find one and buy one and be stuck in it for a year.
Oh, I was not in this one because I would have said
you need a lot of super chats.
No, but
expensive.
Well, I'm in the land of Nissan, so I'm kind of sheltered from some of those prices, because I'm the only guy that sees every Titan ever built, because nobody else has bought a Titan other than employees here in Middle Tennessee. But
that's true.
Well, the rumor was with that cross cab is, and it has a ring of truth to it, that there was a Nissan exec whose wife really wanted a convertible Murano. She was driving a Murano.
It was Mr. Music Case guy, wasn't it? I'm
pretty
sure.
Yeah, I think it may have been. So he put it in production. I'm like, really, dude? You're going to put your money into this? Of all of the languishing products you have that you're just letting rot, you're going to put it into a convertible Murano?
Well, it was the smart move, Like, why not?
Sure. Yeah. Happy wife, happy life, man. Maybe.
Yeah, right.
Be damn shareholders.
That's so funny. Yeah, but was not Webasto, and then the only other one I can think of was the Jeep Liberty had a My Sky Power Touch too, and those would fail if you breathed on them wrong. And same thing, like Jeep's like, sorry. Yeah, Webasto went to Jeep and like, yeah, we can do this. It's going to cost this much. And Jeep said, absolutely not. We're going to do it ourselves. Yeah. And Webasto handed him a pile of patents and said, nope, you can't do it this way. You can't do it this way. So Jeep's like, we'll just throw it on there. And then didn't go well.
Well, is that part of the problem with why the Wrangler tops fit so well and seem to do so well? And then maybe that's why Ford's had some issues, is because of they don't want that I can't. Does Webasto's make the Wrangler top? I feel like they do. I think there's
No,
two,
it's
two companies.
the hard top. I don't know
Yeah.
who makes the hard top on Wrangler. And Best Top does all the soft tops.
Yeah.
And Best Top's another one of those companies that's been around for so long that they have like all the patents for the really nice window seals and the really nice molding on the side windows.
Right.
Which I think Ford knows, right? Because that's a aftermarket Ford accessory, right? You can get through Ford.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
Best Top,
absolutely
soft
is.
top?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's interesting.
But if you do compare, Tommy, your two doors a hard top, right?
No, it's a soft top.
Soft top. But if you do compare like the Jeep hard tops, they just are they're so light years ahead of where Ford is with their hard tops for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I do like that removable second panel on the Bronco, right above the second seats. That was a nice thing they added. But yeah, I mean the Jeep has their tops pretty much nailed at this point.
Yeah, we've never had a problem with ours at all.
No, our Freedom.
I'm really excited to also see what Advanced Fiberglass Concepts. For those of you guys that don't know, we're not a dealer for them, but I know the guy that owns it. And he's a great guy. But they're developing and taking pre-orders on their hardtop. They've got two different designs. They have one that'll have the modular where the front big panel comes off, but they also have a single clamshell, one massive piece that goes on and bolts on. Their goal there was to try and reduce as much wind noise as possible. So I think it'd be nice to have those as different options in the marketplace too.
That's a pricey option though.
That is a true statement.
And you better figure out how to store it.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
I think that it starts at like $5,000 and then goes all the way up to like $7,500.
Yeah,
depending on the options and things like that. But
it seems like they've come down a little bit then, because I think they came out of the gate at like 7, didn't they?
No, that
68, 7.
People were going with, I'll just price it out, and then they were sticker shock,
they were
and then
showing
shipping
off the highest price. Yeah,
and then shipping on those tops is a nightmare as well.
Yeah, it's not easy.
So Tommy, how many videos are you going to crank out on this Raptor? Like 20, 30?
Yeah, I mean we've got the drag race of the 392 and then the Sasquatch that'll be up sometime probably this weekend. I've got the one from Johnson Valley, which our editor spent so long working on. That's going up tomorrow. And then I don't know. I think I've got a comparison with their Sasquatch too, which is pretty fun. And yeah, I mean I think my deal with the kind of final thoughts with the Raptor is if you want the ultimate Bronco and you want just peace of mind of a factory warranty and that is going to work right out of the box, if you can get one for 70 or 80, like it's a hell of a lot of truck for 70 or 80 grand. Now I think personally for my use case, and I think for 99.9% of people's use case, you're better off with just like any black diamond Sasquatch or anything with a Sasquatch package on it,
right?
Because it'll go everywhere you need it to go, and you don't have to deal with the craziness.
Right.
But
guys,
I will say,
sorry.
No, go for it.
Guys in chat, load up your questions real quick. Tommy looks like he's about to fall asleep over there. He's like, I have a feeling you've had a rough day, man.
It was a horribly long day. It's just one of these days where everything's going wrong. We're trying to get ready for this big gas versus electric towing thing tomorrow, and it's like a whole mess. I have to log off pretty soon. But yeah, I think the towing capacity is good that they improved that.
Is that a big deal, really? I've never, in the Jeeps we've had, this Bronco, I don't want to tow a motorhome with that thing. Is that really a sales point?
We get I mean, maybe Mitchell has some input, but we get a shocking number of emails about folks that are trying to tow with their Wranglers. Like, it's a really big deal. And the answer is always no, don't do it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think where you have a lot of people that are looking to pull their really heavy overland trailer behind them. And they want to make sure that, even if that overland trailer only weighs a couple thousand pounds, by increasing the towing capacity on that Bronco Raptor by 2,000 pounds or whatever the increase is, I can't remember off the top of my head, but that extra headroom gives them a little bit of, okay, I don't have to really worry about if I'm over capacity. If that makes any sense. I don't think many people are going to utilize all that crazy heavy weight, but a lot of people just like to have that extra headroom.
This is one of the few cases I can think of where the additional towing capacity is not down to cooling and tires. Like every time a vehicle manufacturer makes it more capable in towing, it's always down to cooling, which is just an absolute turd. But this is like the first time where you crawl underneath and you're like, oh, it's got this cross member and this cross member. And then you're like, well, that's kind of interesting. So that makes me, not that I would ever overload a vehicle, but that would make me extra hesitant not to overload my non-Bronco Raptor, right? If it's actually a hitch bracing thing versus just Well, just cooling.
Well, and then you come down. You were saying it's a variant of that 2.7. They've had a few 2.7 issues right now. So can you imagine towing with that your brand new toy and
No.
drop a valve in that thing? I don't know. Mitchell's like, hey, we don't talk about that.
No, I don't mind talking about it. You know how many Bronco engine failures we've had?
Probably none.
One.
Yeah.
Oh.
And did anybody ever see that TikTok video that the guy was changing the oil on his Bronco
And the
and
mud came
what I
out?
call the milk came out of it?
Mhm.
You want to guess where what dealership that was at?
Was that y'all?
Yours? Was that
That was
yours?
us.
Did you
Really?
fire that employee?
No, no. The reason that milkshake came out was because the man flooded his motor. So he went through a mud hole. There was technically a water hole.
Was he from
Sucked
Florida?
a lot of water into the intake, and the water ended up in the engine and ended up pushing itself all the way down into the oil. And so he wasn't changing the oil. It looked like it. He was draining the oil to put the new motor in.
Oh, interesting.
So he thought he could send it and it would be okay.
The customer, by the way, this is a customer.
Yeah,
that
that's
drove
what
it.
I'm saying. The customer
Yes.
thought he could just send
He
it.
sent
and
it,
be
and he
okay.
sent it way too hard, and it was a lot deeper than he realized.
Yeah,
Well.
so the whole thing with the 2.7, and we've gotten so many requests to do a video on this, but it's like one of those things where there's definitely someone that knows the full scope of the story, but in my position, I can't be the one to be like, I mean, if you look at the NHTSA numbers, it's 30, 40 something, right,
Yeah.
out of the tens of thousands of Broncos that they've built. So
probably pretty common numbers, really, in reality, of a new launch vehicle.
So I don't want to go out and create a panic over something that might be a really isolated incident.
And guys, keep in mind, that's why Ford gives you a warranty. If it's going to
Well, that's
break,
the other thing.
and that, I mean, that's why they give you a warranty. Is crap's going to go wrong. I heard a service advisor years ago, didn't work at our dealership, but he said, ma'am, sir, this car is made by man, and that's why God created service departments. So, but anyways, no, all jokes aside, that's why you have a warranty. I mean, we've probably not probably, I know for a fact we've sold more Broncos than anybody in the state of Alabama, probably in the Southeast. And we've not seen a single failure on an engine except for that one where the guy he just sent it too hard.
Mm-hmm. That's, lockers and things sometimes work better than just speed. Tommy, I'm going to let you go, buddy. You
Thank you, guys.
like you've had a rough day, man.
I really appreciate it. Mitchell's great finally meeting you. I really love the channel. So I look forward to seeing what you guys have in store.
And Tommy,
likewise,
are you going to be SEMA this year? Or is it just Andre again?
To be completely honest, I avoid SEMA like the absolute plague. That is my absolute nightmare of a show. Just hours of walking around and
there is that.
Well, I'm a little bummed because I was supposed to be in studio with you guys. I was going to come hang out with you guys.
Yeah, I heard
last
Nathan
week.
told
a couple
me.
days ago or a week or so ago, and life has kept me from that. But I'm definitely I've got to put a hand to hand there, and we got to talk some cars pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good seeing you
All
guys.
right, dude, man.
Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here. Thanks.
Yeah,
great to see you, Tommy. Have a good one.
Yeah, good seeing you too, buddy. See ya.
Thank you.
Well, there you go, guys. Tommy, poor Tommy looked beat there, Mitchell. I think the last half hour he was going to fall asleep over there. But I do greatly appreciate Tommy and the guys over at TFL. I've met them all pretty much. I'm going to get Andre. I keep getting a lot of Andre requests, so we'll have Andre on here soon. But Nathan's always been my guy. Like Nathan, for whatever reason, when it was just Tommy's dad and Nathan out there doing it. I don't know, man. That was my guy. But Tommy is so much fun to have on the show, and he knows his off-road stuff. So, which is why I like to have him on here. What you got there, Kelly?
So future Sean, thank you for that super chat. So excited to see what Advanced Fiberglass Concepts does with those Bronco Raptor fenders. Basically, just structure something that looks better than the garbage cans. And winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah.
I might have to change. I didn't realize it, but they do look like garbage cans. The
now that it's
I've never thought about that.
They are in person. They are. That was something when we were all at Supercell. I was surprised that there's a little bit of metal flake kind of gleam to them. It's not just a hard looking plastic. Photos don't seem to show that there are a little more stylized points to it than just black plastic.
I do have to get some thank yous in here.
And I know I've given those fender flares a really hard time, and I'm not going to stop. But it's better in person but it's still not anywhere close to good. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, no, definitely. When I saw it, when you did your video with it, and our friendly Ford guy was he's let me come in early one morning and play with it a little bit. No, once you sit behind the seats of that, and if you have the ADK to throw at it, you have no worries, man. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I was surprised though to hear that the 2.7 was keeping up with it on their drag. So I can't wait to that should be a really good video. So I'm pretty excited about that. Kelly, you got some housekeeping here?
Yeah, I have posted them up, and thank you so much for those.
And
super
Mitchell,
chats,
sorry,
guys.
by the way, if you have to leave us, I totally understand.
No, I'm good for the next probably 10 or 15 minutes, but after that,
Okay.
I'll probably take you up on heading on.
Yeah, no worries. Just wanted to get some thank yous in here really quickly. So thank you for those super chats, guys. Did go ahead and give you a post up there, so we appreciate you. And 502 Bourbon Crew said got the built email.
Congratulations, sir.
Delivery for 6:30 to 7/6. So just about a month later than what we were talking about at Bronco Super.
We had to wait an extra month.
Yeah.
Everybody
and go ahead and pad yourself. Microchip short, your truck will get hit with a microchip. Just go ahead and prepare yourself. Do not trust the ETAs that Ford is giving you right now. I mean, I love Ford, but don't trust
let me ask you this. So even if they've got the built email, they still have to be prepared for a delay?
It's the ready for shipment that I'm looking for, or that it's shipped, because they can build the vehicle and it's technically considered built. Then they go put it in that holding pen, and it's now waiting on microchips.
Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying? Because the fact that, hey, my vehicle's built just means it's out of the plant.
Yeah, but they're built wild, Mitchell. I mean, come on, dude. Like they got to let them out of the pen.
I mean, what about the mice?
Yeah, what is up with that? So I'm sure you don't follow this. All these people are so scared that their Broncos are in a holding lot, and there's just mice and squirrels.
That it's
everywhere.
Just a field that the animals are just going to live in the vehicle.
It boggles my mind because I know but most people don't realize how long it takes to get a vehicle from any plant
in general
to the sales floor. Like they don't just. I know there's been some people that got their deliveries pretty quick, like a week later I got my Bronco. That's not normal for car deliveries.
That's correct. That's correct. We've been waiting 5 or 6 weeks. I can't remember exactly for our F-150 Lightning, and it's been in transit the whole time. We had if you guys are not familiar with the Birmingham, Alabama area, we're in Bessemer, Alabama, and then you got Birmingham is literally adjacent to Birmingham. Well, the railhead drops off in Birmingham, and we had a Super Duty that was shipped from Kentucky, made it all the way there, wherever the Super Duties are built, made it down to Birmingham, Alabama. As I drive, it's a 15-minute drive, and it sat in that holding pen for like 6 weeks in Birmingham, and you can't go get the vehicle.
Yeah.
And the customer is knocking our doors down. It's in Birmingham. Why can't you just go get it? It don't work that way. That Ford will not let you in there.
So you can't then, because I have seen stories where people have said that it's been sitting, they found it, they tracked it to their wherever, and they're just waiting on a truck to get there. So you cannot get it until the delivery company.
And the reason for that is because those railheads also, that's a stop for the train. And on those railheads, it may not just be cars that are delivered to that particular railhead. Sometimes there's hazardous materials. Sometimes there's materials that can be used that if the ill person got a hold of it, could make a bomb out of it, or they can make meth out of it. If anybody's seen that Breaking Bad episode, I don't know if you have.
Yeah.
But
just don't be a kid and ride a motorcycle around that. That's all I learned from that.
Exactly right. But you can't. The people that are driving those big trucks that haul the vehicles, I mean, they have to have some certain level of access, or at least here at our local version, you have to have some certain level of clearance to make sure that you don't have a criminal history because of all the stuff in addition to the cars that come in and out of that depot.
That makes sense. Yeah, I was a bit surprised when they said, my dealership went and picked it up from the rail car because they were just waiting on it. So I was a bit surprised by that story, but who knows? I mean, you're in a crazy world.
And not every railhead is the same. You know what I'm saying? I can only speak for what I know, and that's this local area. If on the other end of the country, it might be totally different.
Right, because they might be exclusive to whatever product that they
Yes,
have to go
and
through
Ford uses more than one, transportation company, whether it's a railhead, or whether it's a caravan or whatever they call it, hot shot. They have lots of different transportation companies that they use. So not every two are the same.
It's good to know.
Which they're still having driver issues. Like
Yes.
they don't have enough drivers to get these things out.
That's a disaster.
Yes. What else you got there,
Jason
Kelly?
Boyd says he's in production. Congratulations.
sir.
Whoop.
G. Williker says, question for Mitchell. How is Ford dealing with the tons of reservation / orders placed through your dealership? Any insider speculation for 2023s?
I don't have any insider information. I do know that from what I've heard, if you've been looking on any of the forums, those estimated time that the 23 model order bank will open, I have heard I'm not going to say the specific month, but if you've read some rumors out there, those rumors are probably true. So I'll just leave it at that. As far as allocations are concerned, it all depends on what the next 12 months where it looks like for microchips, because the Bronco factory, the guys and gals that work at that factory are killing it. They're getting after it. They're hustling. They're doing the good work. But if you don't have enough microchips to build the vehicles, there's no reason to keep building them. The example that I actually read, and I didn't realize like how crazy this was. I don't have any numbers for Bronco, but I do have some numbers for the F-150. So, back in 2019, they sold almost 1 million F-150s. It was like 950,000 F-150s in that one model year. Okay. And I know that was pre-pandemic and pre-COVID, all that kind of stuff, but let's just use 900,000. The average F-150 from the article that I read, they said the average King Ranch Platinums use more, the XLs use less, but the average F-150 uses 3,500 microchips.
Wow.
Wow.
Do that math. I don't know if you can see my calculator, but if you do 900,000 vehicles,
you're going to have to turn it sideways.
You're exactly right. 3.15 E9. But yeah, that's 3.1 billion.
Yeah.
Microchips in 1 year.
Wow. And we just keep adding more.
Wrong, that's a crazy situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just keep adding more, man.
And so that's the problem is that Ford has to balance the thing that has been paying the bills for so long, which is the F-150 microchips, up against the customers that have been waiting patiently for their Bronco. All of that to say is we don't know.
Yeah.
I do know that it's not the plant's fault. I don't even think it's Ford's fault at this point.
No.
I just think it's the supply chain, and I'm so sick of people, including myself, using this as almost feels like you're using it as a cop out. But I mean, when you look at those kinds of numbers, you realize how screwed up the numbers are.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And
right.
Yeah, there's some really good videos out there. If you Google or YouTube search microchip shortage, and there's some garbage videos out there, but there's some really good ones that'll help teach you a lot about this whole current process. And it'll give you a lot more grace for all the manufacturers, not just Ford.
Hey guys, speaking of, if you would grace me with a like on this video, I would greatly appreciate it. We've got over 160 people and only 76 likes so far. So if
you just have to minimize the chat if you're on your phone to be able to
just smash it. It just helps people find my channel. So I greatly appreciate that. A couple more questions for Mitchell because I know he's tired as well.
Jay Michigan says, heard the regular 2-week shutdown is in July is going to be extended to a month, which I'm hearing rumors of that as too, but I've not heard it from anybody reliable. I don't know if you've heard anything on that at Mitchell or have any.
I have not heard anything about that, but that would be a great time for Ford to do it when they're already shut down. Because where they get really hammered on the cost is to start the plant, shut the plant down, start it up, shut it down, start it up. That's when it gets really expensive. So if they can foresee a shortage of microchips coming and they're going to have to shut down anyways, they're probably just going to shut down for, just stay shut down for an extra 2 weeks. So I have not heard anything, but it is very possible.
Yeah, and plus that plant MAP builds the Ranger, which we got a new Ranger coming, which I've already bugged Mitchell about
To reset.
getting me a Ranger. So we're gonna be doing business, probably with a top too, because I keep telling her I need that best top.
Yep. Let me know and I'll hook you up.
Oh, I appreciate that. Nobody heard that, right? Nobody heard that.
Well, in all honesty, we're completely transparent on anything we do. But Trees on the Beach says, I want mine delayed. I want Android Automotive in mine, and that's not happening yet.
Do what?
They want their vehicle to be delayed because they want to wait for Android Auto.
Is it Android
Auto?
Android
Auto. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Android Auto's in it. It might not be wireless Android Auto. I've got an iPhone, so I can't really.
We do too.
Test it. But I mean, Ford had Android Auto back on the Sync 2 days.
Yeah,
I'm exaggerating there. The Sync 3 days, but now that we're on Sync 4, I don't see how they would have upgraded to the Sync 4 and lost Android Auto. Once again, it might not be wireless, but you might want to just find a Bronco and plug it in and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know that was actually, now that we're talking about it, that was actually a conversation we had at SEMA talking to some friends of ours, was that they had Android and they were like, ooh, I can plug it in and actually play a video on it versus with car Apple Play. So now that we're talking about it, yeah, definitely check on that. So unless it's the wireless Android Auto that you're talking about or concerned about.
And realistically, I don't use wireless Apple CarPlay ever in mine. It's unreliable. It zaps my phone battery. Wired is the only way to go.
Yeah, if we're just hopping in to run to the store, I just let it do its thing. But no, I would prefer to just be plugged in. What else we got?
So they're talking integrated Android where there's no phone necessary. So that's above my IT pay grade.
Okay. Well, I have not heard anything about that.
I haven't either.
Yeah. So I mean, they've been using Sync, their own. They partnered with Microsoft initially, and now they just do it themselves, I think.
I don't think, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty confident that's not going to happen anytime soon. I know Ford has teamed up with Apple pretty severely on one of their most recent projects. I got to be careful what I say because I did sign a non-disclosure agreement. But
nobody's listening.
I don't think. I don't think. But based on this partnership with Apple that I've seen, I doubt you're going to see the Android Auto partnership at the same time.
There you go.
Yeah, they have a good job at doing that.
We need one final really good question for Mitchell. I mean, like something to challenge his height in the YouTube world.
I know what it is. How tall am I?
Well, this one won't be the final question, but I know Tim Cornay has been waiting for a very long time. His has been in production since 2/1. Just got his built email on 6/16. And thinking that is different was I believe it was related around the comment that you talked about. It was like, wait another week. So
that's great. There's still a few 21s out there. Can you imagine getting a 20?
I would be livid.
They in July go, oh, you're 21 shipping. That's been sitting there. There's a handful I know of that are still waiting to be shipped out. I can't imagine how they handle that. They're not going to discount it.
No,
because dealer be like, I'll sell it.
Yeah, I think the dealer would probably say, well, if you don't like it, turn around and sell it and make you $20,000, assuming they sold it at sticker.
Hey, our local dealership has a used Wild Track for $90,000.
Thank you, Andrea, by the way.
Yeah.
Had to get that.
That's nuts.
All right, last question for Mitchell. Come on.
What you got? What you got?
I'm trying. It's so you're so challenging.
Tommy was talking about that dash, and I was just seen Bronco Wild Outdoors talking about that. That's such a miss that they didn't just put that digital dash from the get-go in these things. I never look at that normal speedo.
I really believe that they intentionally withhold certain products so that way they can decipher and distinguish other products.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Meaning that in that Bronco, that they could have very easily put that whole LCD instrument cluster in every one of them, but they got to have something extra that makes the Raptor look nice and fancy.
But the only bummer is with the F-150, you can get that it's pretty easy to get that in an easy package. All right.
Yeah, and the reason they do that though is because of Blue Cruise. So the key differentiator, or the reason that they have to do that on basically every F-150 that's a Lariat and above is because if you have Blue Cruise, you're on that certain section of divided road where you can go hands-free. That entire instrument cluster turns bright blue. So that way you don't even have to look down at the instrument cluster. You know you're in a hands-free zone out of your peripheral because you got a big blue screen underneath you where it used to be black. So that's and on the Raptor or Bronco and the Bronco Raptors, Blue Cruise is not available. So that's probably why they're like, let's save the money, save the microchips, and let's just put it out on the Bronco Raptor. That's my
Kelly,
2 cents.
You've got the good question, right?
So this isn't the last question, but this is an important one.
I keep telling him it's the last
I know you
question.
do. I promise.
I'm in no hurry. You guys are good.
I'll have one more after this for you. But 502 Bourbon Crew wants to know Mitchell, Alabama the band, or Walker Hayes?
Who?
So Alabama or Walker Hayes.
Oh,
so Alabama from Fort Payne, Alabama, the band.
Oh yeah. Oh, we're talking music. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. They like to change it up on us sometimes. Walker Hayes.
No,
so I guess the answer is Alabama.
Never heard of her. No, I'm kidding. No, it's absolutely Alabama. So yeah, 100%. So my wife actually went to the same school that they did, and went to the same college. So
how far is Fort Payne from you?
Fort Payne from me is probably about an hour and a half of that direction.
Okay. We used to go to Alabama June Jam when I was little. We went to Alabama June Jam every year. So
yeah, so every time I go to Knoxville, I have to drive straight through it to get to that part of the country. So we go through there pretty often.
If I can get 120 likes, I will drive down to Mitchell's and I will do a review on his electric monster truck. So I'm just challenging you guys. 120 likes is what I need right now.
Okay, so this one's
I have a feeling that even if you don't hit the likes, you're still going to want to come down and see that thing. That thing's nasty. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't say something. I wasn't supposed to say something.
Hey, go watch the video.
Everybody smash that like button.
Yeah.
So Bronco 78 says, what is Mitchell's thoughts on Ford going to direct sales? See, had to drop.
This is actually a video that I am I'm spending a lot of time on because that is one of the most misinformation news article I have seen floating around.
I've talked about it a little bit because I had to.
Yeah. Are you guys okay? Because I can kind of go through my dissertation of everything.
You don't ruin your video about it. But
I don't care.
Let's be honest.
Here, I'm going to go into this detail, but you better hit that like button. Yeah, if you're thinking I'm talking to you, hit that like button. Okay. All right. So here's the thing. Is everybody heard or has read an article about what the CEO Jim Farley has talked about, that that we're going to have direct sales. They took a snippet of his speech and they basically put that in a news article and they didn't continue on with the rest of what he talked about. So everybody heard we're going to go straight direct to consumer sales. What they didn't hear is they said, however, we also believe that our dealer body gives us a competitive advantage that other people like Rivian don't have. For instance, one of the things I'm talking about in this video that I'm making is that right now, if you live in the middle of Birmingham and you have your Rivian R1T and you have a module that gets fried in it, and don't tell me it doesn't happen because I've seen it happen in our service department on other vehicles. But let's say you have a fried module, the thing is immobilized. Where do you take it? You want to guess where the closest service center for Rivian is?
Chicago?
Denver.
That's actually one of them. That and Orlando. You get to pick your choice. In the middle of Alabama, do you want to go to Chicago or Orlando? They're almost exactly the same distance.
Wow.
And you flip the script on that, there's 2,800 EV certified Ford dealers in the United States. I can hit 4 EV certified Ford dealerships within a 30-minute drive of where I'm at right now. And so that's where Ford is, what they're talking about is, yes, are we going to go direct to consumer sales? Yes, we will. You'll be able to go to Ford.com. You'll be able to spec out the vehicle. You will be able to place the order. But what they didn't tell you is that order goes into the dealership. Then from there, it gets sent back over to Ford. Ford produces the vehicle and they ship the vehicle back to the dealer. Then from that dealer, based on how the customer said, I want the vehicle, the dealership can drop it off at your home. They can arrange for pickup at the dealership or arrange for pickup, or drop it off at your work. But at the end of the day, the dealer is still delivering the unit. The other part of that is that Ford is going to dictate on on EV vehicles, they will dictate that the dealer, if they want to participate in being an EV dealer, they have to agree that they will sell it at MSRP. Well, I'm okay with that because crap, we're already doing it.
Yeah.
So what's the big deal? It's the biggest misconception. I am okay with on EV sales Ford dictating the MSRP pricing. I don't think that on normal vehicles they should dictate the pricing. Here's my reason: I don't think we'll be in this microchip shortage forever. I do think we will be in it for the next 4 years. But let's go back for a second. Back in 2018, 2019, customers didn't have a problem with not paying MSRP because they were paying way less than MSRP.
Right.
They were getting discounts. But now all of a sudden that the supply dries up, now they're kicking and screaming that the market is actually over MSRP. The reason you can tell that is because so many of our Bronco customers have taken their vehicle, bought it from us, turned around and flipped it the next day for a $20,000 profit. Am I mad about that? Not at all. We promised them sticker. We're going to give them sticker. But it's just funny how the same person that was okay with getting, not paying MSRP because they're paying below, now all of a sudden has a problem because, they're having to pay over sticker for a vehicle they didn't order. Now, I agree personally, wholeheartedly, that if you order the vehicle, you need to be paying MSRP. If it's as long as it's not some specialty, Bugatti Chiron or something stupid like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like if it's a Bronco or if it's an F-150 or an F-250, it needs to be sold at MSRP. That's just my personal belief. But I don't think that I don't think that if you have a vehicle on the lot and you have three customers there arguing with each other about who gets the opportunity to buy it, well, who wants to pay the most for it? There's nothing wrong with saying that. If someone's the market is what someone is willing to pay for something. The other example that I like to use is Zillow. Like, let's pretend that I want to sell my house and Zillow says it's worth $200,000. Well, I get some comps back and it looks like, a lot of these houses are selling for about $250,000. Well, I put my house on the market for $250,000, and because of the bidding war, someone, puts an offer of $275,000 in. Am I going to say, no, I'm not going to sell it to you for $275,000 because Zillow says it's only worth $200,000?
Right.
It's what the market bears, if that makes sense. So I'll get off my high horse here in a minute, but
well, no, and I can see your. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just believe in and this is not political or anything like that. I just believe in just free market. Let the world do what the world's going to do. And if a vehicle is in this kind of demand, but in this kind of supply, what's going to happen? The price is going to correct everything. Right. And the same is the opposite. If the vehicle is, not in demand, if it's one of that Pontiac Aztecs we talked about earlier, and the supply is up here, then guess what's going to happen to that price is going to correct that. And that's just my opinion. But I do like the EV direct sales because it will include the dealers. It just will take some of what I like to call the jackleggery out of, some of these not so nice, courteous Ford dealerships.
When you still have to deal with financing, and the financing has to be probably within your state. So that's going to dictate some of that, or I assume that's kind of how it has to be done.
That's right.
And I'll be honest, I think Ford is trying to, whether you like the UAW or not, the EVs, they're about to have a big battle with the UAW about EVs because they require less to build. And Ford the UAW has all these employees they're backing. And if Ford doesn't need all those employees, they're about to have their hands full there. And direct sales for some of that would maybe clean house of some things that some of the big three would like to.
The other side of that is, Ford is building this massive blue oval city in Kentucky and also in Memphis. I don't know. I really don't know off the top of my head, but I wonder if they chose that location because they won't have to use the UAW.
We'll see.
It's going to be interesting.
Kelly, anything else? I appreciate Mr.
No, I was just gonna to piggyback on what you were talking about. I totally get your analogies there because it makes sense, and people don't always think about the fact that you have carrying costs to have that vehicle on your lot too. Like there's a certain amount of, hey, it's sitting here, it's a liability of having this. So I think that to your point, and some folks mentioned it in the chat too, is like it's not necessarily a problem with a little bit of a markup on vehicles that are sitting on lot. It's the fact that they were promised MSRP and people gave them their word, we're not going to charge you more. But then they said, oh, wait, the market said something different, even though you started this 2 years ago when the market said this and we agreed. Then that's where the issue is.
I want to make something very clear. I agree wholeheartedly. There's a special place and where for someone that does that.
Yes.
That's misleading. It's lying. That is giving everybody in the car business a bad name. They need to freaking stop it. And I hope they watch this video.
The ordering manager,
that's a
whatever
whole
his name
nother
was,
show too.
We were talking to him a few weeks ago locally, and he was so justifying why they should charge everybody over and all this stuff on their orders.
Well, and he was justifying how many reservations he had of different vehicles he had too. He's like, yeah, I've got an order on this one and this one and this one. And it was like, if the market does this and I can flip it for this, why wouldn't I? And I'm just like, we're auto journalists, like when we're talking to you. So why would you even say like there was no filter to this guy? It is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, and that's like me. I've got an F-150 Lightning on order. It's in the plant right now. And am I going to flip it? Probably eventually, but I'm going to drive it for 6 months, a year, 2 years before I do that.
Right.
But I mean, these dealers that are charging over MSRP for these orders, and then they turn around and wonder why they don't have any orders.
Yeah. And somebody else mentioned that too. It was like, I guarantee you that the people that have gotten screwed over by those dealers will never have those people come back. And I'll be honest, I get wind of certain dealers. I will put it in my memory bank that says we're not dealing with that dealership because
like our local dealership.
We actually told our sales rep, it was like, we would come and buy from you again if you worked it anywhere else, but we would not buy from here again.
Such a horrible experience
because of that experience.
So Mitchell, what's your this is the last question. What's your plans for your Bronco? You've built this massive beast up. You've been quiet on your channel with it a little bit.
I have. I just feel weird. Like, and I'm probably being a little too transparent, but there's days that I love it. I drive it every day. When I did those Lightning test videos, I drove the Lightning for quite a few days. And when I got back in my Bronco, I was like, oh, I miss this thing. Like that's the feelings that I had. So I don't want to get rid of it. I'm not going to, but I feel bad making constant videos about that same Bronco over and over again, because I almost feel like and I know it's not, but I'm just weird in my head, but I almost feel like it's like me bragging, I got my Bronco and you don't, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I feel weird keep bringing up my own personal Bronco.
We struggle with that here.
Yeah, we do.
And I'm like, at what point do people not want to hear about my personal Bronco? Now, I'm all about showing Broncos. But it's just,
you guys are working on one to give away again, right? Y'all have something?
Okay,
maybe I saw. Maybe I saw.
No, because somebody said something about I have my TC Customs T-shirt on. Maybe I can get a giveaway of a Bronco or something.
We are doing a giveaway right now, but it is a full build giveaway. So what we're doing is, if you buy a T-shirt, a mug, or whatever you buy from TC.
One like
I
this.
I knew that'd get him. So. So anything you purchase on tccustoms.com for every $1 spent gets you one entry into the giveaway. And what that is we're going to basically trick out whatever vehicle you have, whether it's a Ram 1500, a Chevrolet 1500, or a Bronco, whatever it is. We're basically going to give you the estimated retail value is $5,000 worth of lift kit, wheels, tires, bumpers, whatever it is you want. you've got a budget of about $5,000 to customize.
Nice.
And so that's kind of the giveaway that we're doing right now. I will tell you, I don't think we mentioned in this video, but I think I told you guys before we got on live that my son was in the hospital for 14 days.
Oh, wow.
And so our marketing efforts have been really squandered by this, and the giveaway ends at the end of this month, and it will have the lowest number of entries we've ever had because I've been out of the office for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So if you want to enter a giveaway, this is the one to do it.
Well, man,
I hope he's doing better.
picked the wrong time to get Mitchell in here is what it sounds like.
Yeah, no, he's back to 100% now. So thank you for the prayers. Thank you for the well wishes.
Good.
But I didn't realize a ruptured appendix was that big of a deal.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah,
I've always been told don't let it get ruptured, but I didn't. But to
Yep.
your point, I didn't realize it was that huge of a thing either.
I did not either. I mean, that kid is a trooper. He's a lot stronger than I am. His daddy's a sissy when it comes to stuff like that.
Guys, we are 5 likes away from getting me to go down to Mitchell's.
5.
5
Do
likes
it.
away, and I will go play with the monster truck if he so deems it. You did promise me to sit in the GT one time, and you were going to rev it for me. So
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
If
you pick the right time of day, I might even take you for a quick spin around the block.
Well, come on, guys. Let's 5
We
likes.
got
likes.
to talk about when this right time of day is.
Well, Mitchell, I greatly appreciate you being on here. You've always been super kind to us, and you've given us a lot of super chats, so we greatly appreciate that, man. You never have to do that, but I wanted you to be on here with Tommy because I thought like you would have, and you seem to have, you guys had some good perspective that each may have not thought of. So I appreciate you being on here. Obviously, you guys know where to find him. tccustoms.com would probably be the key spot. I would say Ford dealership, but yet you'd have to have vehicles to sell to people. But parts, you can sell parts.
I can get parts. Like I said, I'm one of the few people that have got a whole bunch of those best tops in stock. So check out tccustoms.com if you want a best top.
Come
in fact, you can even give us a call ahead of time. We'll get you a discount code. And that goes not just for you guys, but for everybody watching.
Yeah, we don't do discount. I don't worry about discount codes here because I'm a man of like you of let the market handle it. I don't want people to think they have to come to my channel for a discount code. But guys, I'm going to chat with Mitchell just a second. So let's end this real quick. So whether it be 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, you know the drill. It does not matter what you drive as long as you're driving Bronco on Mondays. This is tomorrow night. We have me and Kelly will be back on. We have a journalist friend on here for the happy hour show. And we'll see y'all next Monday for the Broncos. Peace, everybody.
Bye, guys.